magical beings. Welcome to my channel. In case you missed the intro video, my name is Ariana. I'm an ex-Christian Oneness Pentecostal turned mystic atheist agnostic. On this channel, I cover many topics, including my faith journey in and out of the church. Today, I'm doing my first official video discussing my faith journey from Catholicism to evangelical Christianity, then eventual deconversion. So without further ado, let's get into it. My brother and I were born and raised in sunny Southern California to Mexican immigrant parents. As with most Hispanic Latino families, we were brought up in the Catholic faith. I am grateful, however, that my parents were not devout and never forced their beliefs on us despite us having done the sacraments. This is something I will always advocate against. No matter your religious beliefs, it should never be forced upon children. They are individuals who deserve the right to choose their own path, even if it's not your own. That's true love and respect. So, around the time we became adolescents, my brother and I stopped attending church altogether. I still identified as a Catholic up until I graduated high school. After graduating, my parents moved to Arizona, and that fall, I ventured on my own in California to attend college. It was also the year 9/11 happened. I didn't last the first semester because not too long after that, I dropped out. I didn't know what to do with my life yet and decided school just wasn't my thing. About 5 years later, I got the worst call of my life. My dad had terminal lung cancer. Turns out he had it for a while, but my parents kept it a secret to protect me. I resented that for a long time, but much later, my mom told me that my dad just wanted me to live my life and not have to worry. He was just looking out for me. Sometimes I wish I would have stayed with my parents. I made so many stupid mistakes after college, and I could have spent more time with my dad. The dreaded day arrived when he finally passed away, just 5 days before my 23rd birthday. At least he left peacefully in our childhood home. Now, backtracking a bit, before his passing, my parents had moved back into the old house, which they had been renting to my brother at the time. Not long after, I returned as well, having spent nearly 4 years in a dead-end relationship. My dad, being gone, left a permanent void in my heart. This led me to my journey of soul searching and finding meaning. It also led me into a wild lifestyle, as the church would call it. I numbed my pain with dancing at nightclubs, drinking, and promiscuity. Somehow, in the midst of all that, I managed to find an outlet of meaning by pursuing a massage therapy career. After graduating, I started job searching, which landed me in a neat spa near the foothills. While working at the spa, I got acquainted with a girl a few years younger than me who was an esthetician. As months went by, I learned she was a Christian, Pentecostal to be exact, a sect I had never heard of before. Surprisingly, I never picked up on it because she didn't seem religious. During that time frame, I was curious about religion and spirituality, especially since a few things piqued my interest. One, the book A New Earth, Awakening to Your Life's Purpose by Eckhart Tolle, which I still recommend. Two, my cousin who dabbled in a little spirituality herself. And third, her then guy bestie who happened to be a Christian. I actually bought a Bible, NIV study Bible to be exact, and began to read it, something I've never done in my entire life, even as a Catholic. This curiosity led to asking my esthetician friend questions, to which eventually prompted her to invite me to church. I can't remember the exact number of times I went to visit that church, probably just a few, but I do remember the first time I stepped into those doors. The very first thing I noticed was no huge statue of Jesus on the cross, no candles, no Virgin Mary statues, something I had been used to seeing in the Catholic church growing up. It was just plain with a set of drums and musical instruments. I also remember seeing people running the aisles, jumping up and down, and it was really loud music. It was the most awkward hour and a half. I just sat there the whole service. I don't even remember what the sermon was about. All I thought was, I don't think I'll ever come back. Well, to my surprise, I actually did come back. On November 2nd, 2008, on a Sunday morning, I decided to drive 40 minutes, a 33-mile drive, which I didn't mention earlier, but that is how far it was from my house. I was a nervous wreck driving over there. I didn't know what to expect. I just felt a strong pull, mostly out of curiosity. I was already in a vulnerable point in my life where I would just wanted to find some kind of meaning and peace in my life. I wanted to fill the void that I had since losing my father. As before, I don't recall the sermon's message, only the altar call. I was sitting beside my friend's mom when she encouraged me to go forward and pray. Hesitant and unsure of what to do, I confessed that I didn't know what to say or how to pray. Still, she guided me through it, walking with me as we approached the altar together. There was a guilty and shameful feeling that came over me. Then, all of a sudden, I began to sob uncontrollably out of nowhere. After a few minutes of that, all I remember is opening my eyes and being surrounded by a mob of people and a man saying that I received the Holy Ghost. Now, I just want to pause right here and highlight that the guilt and shame people feel in a religious setting is not conviction from the Holy Spirit, as most Christians would like to believe. This is ingrained in many people who either grew up in a religious household or have been exposed to a culture where religion has influenced the moral fabric of society, like in America. I will leave some sources down in the description so you can do your own research on this topic. I was very faithful in that church for about a year and a half until some unforeseen circumstances forced me to attend a different church that was a lot closer to my house, which I was thankful for in that regard. This part of my story is where things started to slowly and painfully fall apart for me and my faith. I'll dive deeper into my time at this church in another video, but for now, I'll just give you the highlights and keep moving. Let's just say my experience at this second church was rough, to say the least. From the beginning, I never really felt like I fit in. The only reasons I stuck around were the rare spiritually high experiences like tongue talking and dancing in the spirit, and the few people who actually showed me kindness, especially one woman I thought was a real friend. I was very faithful in this church for almost 11 years before I left cold turkey. There were several reasons why I left, but the real breaking point was during a major anxiety attack, one of several over the years. That moment hit me hard. It was then I realized I just couldn't handle the pressure of going back again. On Thursday, February 18, 2021, I attended the very last evening service of that Oneness Pentecostal church. I came as I always did, went through the motions, sat in the same pew, raised my hands, heard the sermon, and I don't even remember what was said. I was already checked out. I didn't tell a single soul. When the service was over, I quickly slipped away, didn't greet anyone, and drove home. It was one of the hardest and yet easiest decisions I've ever done. Hard because I didn't have a clue what to do next. It's all I'd ever known for 13 years of my life. And yet it was easy because I didn't have close connections to anyone there. So I had nothing to lose. The only thing that I felt like a loss at the time was when a lady I thought was a friend ghosted me. I eventually got over it and accepted that it was the system that caused such division. I couldn't cope the feeling of being without community. So I began church shopping. Nothing felt quite right, but I knew I didn't want what I came from. During this time, I reunited with my now husband, who introduced me to a group of Christians who practiced a church in a very unconventional and orthodox way in their homes. I had a very positive experience at first with these people. It was nothing like I was used to in my old church, except for a few similarities in salvific doctrine. They were charismatic in many of their beliefs, word of faith, and casting out demons type of beliefs. Many things happened that same year. I dated and married my husband very quickly. I had a miscarriage and a year later had our first and only child. Our marriage hasn't been easy in the short 4 years we've been together. In fact, it has been the most challenging experience of our lives. One aspect that made it challenging was the change in spiritual and religious belief between us. Shortly after our daughter was born, I slowly began to have a faith crisis. During the years following me leaving the church and starting a family, I started to recognize how much of reality I had overlooked while immersed in the church. Not only did I learn about spiritual abuse, which I was a victim of, but about social and political issues and other Christian teachings and beliefs. The weight of these realizations grew overwhelming, and the spiritual life I once cherished gradually faded away. Eventually, I faced the reality I'd been denying for a while. I no longer believed in God. Reflecting back, my journey took a significant turn in the last 2 years. I shifted from deconstructing to deconverting from Christianity altogether. I began exploring spiritual and religious practices often labeled by the church and even some in society as evil or demonic. My interest was purely driven by curiosity, though I approached with caution, still haunted by the lingering fear instilled by years of demonization and fear-mongering within the church. Ironically, what I discovered were some of the most grounded, compassionate, and genuinely kind individuals I'd ever encountered, many of whom identified with occult or pagan traditions. When my husband discovered what I had been exploring, he was shocked. Understandably so, given his continued commitment to Christianity. His concern created some tension between us, at least at first, but after I shared more about what I'd been learning, he became at ease, and in time, he came to accept this as part of my personal journey. Things have definitely gotten a bit better in our household, but let's be real. Navigating a spiritually divided marriage with a child hasn't been easy. We've had to compromise and find common ground on everything from lifestyle choices to how we raise our daughter. And honestly, none of the progress we've made would have been possible without therapy, the support of friends and family, and holding each other and ourselves accountable. Change only happens when both people genuinely want it, and not everyone in our situation is lucky enough to have that. Some marriages end when one person leaves the faith and others stay together, but with one person hiding their true beliefs or lack of beliefs out of fear of being rejected or reprimanded. As mentioned earlier, this unraveling of beliefs led me to eventually deconvert. There were pros and cons to this newfound freedom, but on the bright side, it's led me to explore new forms of spirituality that I felt more connected to, ones without dogma or harmful teachings. Although I had been convinced by the lack of evidence and the logical explanation for lack of God's existence, I couldn't relate to most atheists who are against religion or anything mystical. I still felt a sense that life was more than just what we experienced in the physical realm. After some exploring, I started feeling drawn to mysticism and nature-based spiritual practices. Mysticism, according to Britannica.com, is the practice of religious ecstasies, religious experiences during alternate states of consciousness, together with whatever ideologies, ethics, myths, and magic may be related to them. Nature-based spirituality is nothing more than paganism. According to multiple sources, paganism is a broad term referring to spiritual or religious traditions that are polytheistic, often rooted in pre-Christian, indigenous, or folk practices. Many ancient civilizations, including my indigenous ancestors prior to colonization, practiced this form of spirituality, and I want to honor them by going back to those roots. I share my story because it deserves to be heard. Real change is long overdue in religious spaces, within households, communities, and institutions alike. Too many people, myself included, have been hurt by the church and its teachings, yet accountability remains elusive. This platform isn't just for me. It's for anyone seeking validation, understanding, and a sense of belonging. If you're navigating a difficult situation and struggling to find your voice, know that you're not alone. I hope something here resonates with you and reminds you that your truth matters. If you liked what you heard, please share it with someone who could benefit from this message. Also, please like this video and consider subscribing or leave a comment down below and share your experience if you feel comfortable doing so. Until next time, have a magical day. Toodles!